What's going on, Packer fans? Happy Friday. Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Going to be wrapping up Packers Bengals and just kind of giving my grades for the week, best performances, worst performances tomorrow. And of course, Sunday game day, we'll get into Packers Bears. Rivalry week should be an amazing weekend, should be an awesome game on Sunday. Can't wait for that. But let's wrap up what was Packers Bengals week. Of course, I'm very thankful, as I wrote over on Packer Reports. You can find the full grades this week, as you can every week over on PackerReport.com. But wrote this week that I'm very happy that I don't grade special teams, because that entire Mason Crosby kicking performance was certainly something interesting. I don't know where I would even begin. Matt LaFleur basically gave the media a assignment and said, you guys go watch the tape and figure out what went wrong. I'm not even going to pretend I know, the nuances of long snapping mechanics and how Bojorquez held the ball, or things like that. I will say that it's interesting that all the after all those near blocked field goals and extra points that all came off the right side, that Crosby missed everything to the left side. You wonder if that maybe played with his mind just a little bit, but very thankful that I don't grade special teams, because again, that is, I can talk about a lot of things Packers. Grading special teams, certainly not my forte, but let's get into what I do grade each week. That is every player on every single play on both the offense and defensive side of the ball. My top graded player this week, both overall and certainly on the offensive side of the ball, no question about it, Devante Adams. Probably don't need to watch every player on every play to understand that Devante Adams was the best player this week. But I think we've run out of superlatives and adjectives and everything else to describe Devante Adams at this point, so I'm not even going to try. He's beyond ridiculous, barely human at this point. When he says he's different, yeah, he's a different dude. Like, he's just a special player. But I think the thing that is so crazy, he sets his career high with over 200 yards, a touchdown, what was it, 11 catches, whatever it was. The crazy thing is that the first quarter-ish, at least first half of the first quarter, maybe even a little bit longer, didn't start great, right? The pass down the sideline that was intercepted was intended for Adams, and Rodgers and Adams couldn't connect on that play. A couple other plays that I know they'd love to have back late in the game. There's that deep crosser in the red zone and in the end zone where Rodgers had the opportunity to hit Adams to basically put the game away. They couldn't hit it. You could tell Adams was frustrated afterward. Like, there's over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns probably left on the field on a game where he went for over 200 yards and a touchdown. Where if they just complete a couple passes where they probably hit more often than not, we might be talking about a 300-yard day with 2 touchdowns and maybe 15 catches. That's how ridiculous Devante Adams is at this point, that he can have a 200-plus yard game and look phenomenal and still have it be like you watch the tape and be like, man, a couple of these other plays are ones that they normally connect on. And again, he could have probably had close to 300 yards. It's unbelievable what he's doing. And what's maybe even most unbelievable is just how cognizant teams are of Devante Adams. It's not like, some receivers taking them by surprise each week. Like, this is Devante freaking Adams, and every team is doing everything in their power to try to take him away. And I think what really makes this connection so indefensible right now is no team can just go up to the line every play and dedicate 2 players to Devante Adams and say, we're just going to double him on every play. You just can't be that predictable on defense. Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, and Nathaniel Hackett, they will all rip you apart if you just go and line two players up to Devante Adams' side and say, we're just going to make sure you can't pass him the football. You could try doing that. I just don't think you're going to have much success. You're going to gain an extra guy in the run game. You're going to have a whole other side of the field that basically doesn't have, probably a safety. Like, you're just going to take advantage of that all day, every day. You just can't be that predictable. So, of course, teams are going to do everything in their power to try to disguise, whether it's man-to-man, whether it's zone, whether it's, whether they're going to double team him or not. Rodgers isn't going to buy any of that. He knows what's going on pre-snap. He knows if Adams is going to be single. He knows if Adams is going to be doubled. And as soon as he diagnoses your BS disguise and recognizes that Adams is going to be one-on-one in the play, he's just going to let Adams cook, and he's going to find him. And talk all you want about, they're not playing within the rhythm. Yes, the rhythm of the offense goes through Devante Adams, and it should go through Devante Adams, and it's best when they go through Devante Adams because he's that He's that good, and it's just so fun to watch him play football right now. Special, special player playing in the prime of his career, and good luck to any. Chidobe Awuzie was really, really good in this game, and even still, he's Devante Adams. I don't care if you're Deion in your prime. I don't care. Devante Adams is going to beat you during the course of the game. That's where he's at right now. Other really good player in this game, Aaron Jones. And listen, that run that he had. And I mentioned this, earlier this week. I think I mentioned it last week. Like, there's just no running back in the league right now that makes something out of nothing like Aaron Jones. And that run, that 57-yard run he has, he should have been tackled for a 4-yard loss. Safety comes screaming in, downhill into the box, past the line of scrimmage. He meets Aaron Jones 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Jones completely jukes him, cuts upfield. Then there's another player at the line of scrimmage sort of waiting for him. He cuts inside of that, gets the safety one-on-one in the open field, has to find a way to erase the safety, puts like 3 moves on him, cuts to the sideline. Safety has no chance, just complete feet in mud at that point because Jones put such a great move on him. Cuts to the sidelines, kind of cuts back and forth for a little bit, and then delivers a just vicious stiff arm at the end. It's just a total run. And what that run is, of course, going to make the highlight reels, but it's really his runs that he turns from like a -2 into like a +2, where in the box score, it's a 1 carry for 2 yards, 2.0 average, right? But it was really in a 4-yard difference because it should have went for -2, -3 yards, and it went for 2. And instead of being 2nd and 12, it's 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, and that is a huge, huge difference. Being completely behind the chains and basically forced to pass on 2nd down to 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8. You can still run on 2nd down. You can still go some play. You can still do a variety of things in that situation. So those differences for Aaron Jones are everything. And he's shown already this year, he's obviously a very capable receiver. We know he can pass protect, but what he does when everything else goes to crap and he can still make something out of it is nothing short of amazing week in and week out. And then number 3 on my list this week was Aaron Rodgers. Couple, snafus here and there, like the interception early that he threw downfield to Devante wasn't obviously the greatest throw or the greatest decision. That little rollout to Randall Cobb in the end zone, that probably should have been intercepted, which would have been a pretty big game-changing moment at that point in time. There's a couple other throws that he misses here and there, but the 2 big throws, the throw downfield to Devante was a massive one. The throw to Cobb at the end of the game, if they don't complete that pass, you're playing for a tie at best. And that just you go watch that throw and it's incredible. There's a couple other throws that very few people, if any, are even attempting, much less completing. You saw some special throws from Aaron Rodgers in this game, and you can throw a couple of those other hiccups out the window because they just didn't matter. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, Rodgers continued to put his team in a position to kick game-winning field goal after game-winning field goal, and that shouldn't go unnoticed either. So Devante Adams 1, Aaron Jones 2, Aaron Rodgers 3. Honorable mentions to Mercedes Lewis, Randall Cobb, A.J. Dillon all had good games. And I thought really Royce Newman had a really nice game too. Only graded a little bit above positive, but some of the stuff that he's starting to put on tape is pretty impressive. And I think there's this feeling that like Royce Newman is just like the weak link on the offensive line and doesn't know what he's doing. He's just kind of this 4th round. Like, he's a good player, and he's going to continue to get better. I expect that when everyone's healthy, he's probably finding himself on the bench. Probably Bakhtiari, Jenkins, Myers, probably John Runyon, and then Billy Turner is probably your best 5 right now. But I'm really excited about Royce Newman's long-term prospects and really liked what he did in this game. Bottom 3 players were Yosh Nijman, Billy Turner, and Lucas Patrick all along the offensive line. We talked about Aaron Jones making something out of nothing. He had to. The run blocking was not great in this game. I thought there were a couple plays on the edge. Hendrickson and Hubbard and this Bengals edge rusher group is no slouch. Like, they're good players. I thought they got the best of Turner and Nijman on a couple different occasions, but nothing egregious, just not their best performances. And then Lucas Patrick inside, pretty good job filling in at center overall, but one snap that went completely awry, and then having to go one-on-one with DJ Reader in the run game. Larry Ogunjobi had a nice game. Not an ideal matchup for Lucas Patrick, and I thought Reader got the best of that. But overall, for filling in at center, I thought he did a pretty good job, all things considered. Defensive side of the ball, Kenny Clark, again, he's not quite an Adams league, but to the point where we're running out of adjectives to talk about Kenny Clark as well. And it never ceases to amaze me. And there are multiple situations in this game where the same thing happened, where there are two 300 plus pound offensive linemen whose only job on the play is to move Kenny Clark. And Kenny Clark's like, nah, I'm good. And I'm just gonna sit here, and you two 300 plus pound offensive linemen who probably bench, I don't even know how much or how many times, they can't move Kenny Clark. And we'll talk about, Devondre Campbell, and we have talked about Devondre Campbell, and Chris Barnes looks better. Oren Burks has had a pretty nice start to the year. We can talk about those linebackers all you want, but give the hockey assist here to Kenny Clark, because his ability to eat tackles and just mess up everything inside is making Devondre Campbell and Chris Barnes and those type of players, their jobs so much easier. And Clark's just playing at an insane level right now. I know he's a little bit more of a slow burn type of player. I know he's not just like shooting gaps into the backfield and making sacks in under 2 seconds. It takes him a little bit to get there and develop things, but what he's doing from a run stopping standpoint, clogging lanes, getting into the backfield, resetting the line of scrimmage, getting pressure. Remember, he was the one who had the pressure. It was a little bit of, again, a slower pressure, but chased Joe Burrow out to the sidelines on the play that he threw up the ball to Adrian Amos that he picked off. So just another complete performance from Kenny. Devondre Campbell was my second highest rated player. Of course, he had the interception, a couple really big physical stops in the run game as well. Even the last drive for Cincinnati, Barnes and Campbell converged to make a tackle on the running back. I can't remember if it was Mixon or Pirine, but they stop him on third down, and it was like 4th and inches. And Campbell and Barnes, if they don't make that play and they pick up a first down, they probably, who knows how many more yards they get to make that field goal easier for McPherson. Instead, he has to attempt a long field goal, misses it. Obviously, the rest is history, but Campbell was all over the place. He's just playing really, really good football right now. And then surprise, surprise, my third highest rated defensive player in this game was Dean Lowry. Really nice game from Dean. Reset the line of scrimmage on a couple times, batted down a couple balls, had a sack, couple pressures. This was the best I've seen Dean Lowry play probably since 2019. He never really had a good game last year. Didn't have a good game to start the season this year. This was a really nice game from Dean Lowry. If you get anything like that moving forward, it would be a huge win. And just as a whole, just as an aside here, I really like this performance from the defense. I know Darnell Savage had the big, touchdown, and when you needed the stop towards the end, they couldn't get the stop once again. The red zone continued to be an issue, but you look at the overall process for Green Bay, I thought they clogged running lanes really well, set the edge well, cut, more pressure than usual, had some unique blitzes. Chris Barnes had the nice sack. I thought the coverage for the most part held up. I thought Jamar Chase made some really ridiculous contested catches, but I really liked the process in this game from Green Bay and was easily the highest rated defensive game of the season so far this year. Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, honorable mentions to them. I thought both of those players played very nice games as well. As far as players who did not play well, my lowest graded player on defense was Ladarius Hamilton. Hamilton really struggled to begin with. I will give him some credit for kind of settling down a bit as the game went on. That was his first game playing as a Packer, so a little bit of accident forgiveness there, but I did think he settled down as the game went on. Eric Stokes was my second lowest graded player. Some real tough contested catches that he gave up, but there were two really bad missed tackles, which really hurt his grade as well. And then last but not least, I think the interesting one, Shamar Jean-Charles was my third lowest rated player. He played one snap. If you remember, it's the play where Joe Mixon scored the touchdown and he had one-on-one with a defensive back in the open field, and he literally just completely broke Shamar's ankles. Why I find this so interesting is one, obviously he's my third lowest graded player and only played one snap, but two, Pro Football Focus, I really respect the heck out of PFF. I think they do a tremendous job. I always love going at the end of the week once I finished up all my grades and seeing what we agreed on, what we disagreed on. For the most part, we're pretty close more often than not on the majority of players. Every once in a while, there'll be a player that we disagree on one way or the other, but they had a neutral grade on that play for Shamar. They had a 60.0 grade on that play. 60.0 is their neutral. Like that's where if you just play a snap and nothing happens, you get a 60.0 grade. So that's completely neutral. That's like a 0.0 for me. They had a complete neutral grade on Shamar on his one play where he got completely like ankles broken by Joe Mixon on the play. I have zero idea how you can possibly give that a neutral grade. But anyway, neither here nor there. That was my third lowest graded player was Shamar for the one play where he got his ankles broken by Joe Mixon. But that's going to do it for me today. So just to recap, Adams, Jones, and Rodgers, my three highest graded offensive players. Yash, Turner, and Lucas Patrick, my three lowest. Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, Dean Lowry. On the defensive side, my best three, and my worst three, Ladarius Hamilton, Eric Stokes, and Shamar Jean-Charles. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode starting to break down Bears and Packers. You can find my full set of grades on PackerReport.com. They'll be posted at 8 a.m. on Friday. As I mentioned, I'll be here tomorrow, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.